Okay. Hello, everybody. We are ready to start the finals. Okay, so I'm Miriam. I'll be the chair. With me are Enting, Alex, Ali, Amira, Ashley, and Denise. And on that note, I'd like to invite the Prime Minister to take the floor.
Yes. Before this, when a man threatens you, you are scared that you can't fight back. Now, you can put a gun on their face and say, let me make my own choice. The model outside government is that first, we feel that non-cis male individuals should have the right to bear arms. This includes not only women, but people who identify as non-male. This means people who are transgender or people who don't conform to the binary. Second, there are still procedures to ensure whether that person deserves to bear arms or not. This means you don't have mental illness that makes you unable to control these arms, and you don't have criminal records or any health records that are necessary, and also reach the age of majority. And third, we'll keep a track record and we can take back the arms once we are proven to use it in unnecessary circumstances or going to abuse the arms in any way. Fifth, we'll allow people to report to the authority if there's someone that stops them from allowing them to have the gun to begin with. This means, for example, if you're a daughter and your father prevents you from owning a gun, we allow that person to report to the authority and we'll give that person the right to bear arms. Fourth, this doesn't include explosive because we feel that it might be detrimental. But sixth, it will be proportionate. This means that you're allowed to use the gun in a proportionate way. This means when you're abused by someone, that's when it's proportional for you to use the gun against that person. So the question that I answer today is, why is it justified? So first reason, we that non-male are historically oppressed and the status quo isn't enough to restore the injustices that they have faced. What is status quo? So in status quo, we fight for women's right and non-male right, but it's still in the process. You don't get everything that we should have get. So how can this at least try to restore a bit of the injustices? So first, because we believe that non-male is in the position where they are seen as less vulnerable. This means people can just simply say you're biologically weak, therefore you don't deserve certain things in life. This means you are not also able to make great decisions simply because people don't think that you are capable. People can simply say you're not as smart as men, and over the time there's always facts stacking up against women, trying to prove that women are weaker than men, trying to prove that women are less smarter than men. What are these things, right? For example, scientific facts, how say that women's bones are not as big as men and therefore they are weaker, or religious sentiments that say how you cannot make decisions and therefore you should abide to what the man wants. So these are the historical oppressions that women face, and the only way for us to actually restore these injustices is at least by giving them some form of power and therefore by giving them arms. So we believe that by allowing them to bear arms, it shows that women or non-male are first capable to protect themselves, and second, not an easy target for someone to easily kidnap them and whatnot. So for example, before this, when people thought they want to kidnap women because they think that women is weak, now they will consider the choices because they think the weak women that I once thought was weak now owns a gun that might kill me. But second, even if they're not vulnerable, even if the opposition want to say that they are not that vulnerable, the problem is that they are still seen as vulnerable. It doesn't matter whether you're vulnerable or not, but how people perceive you at the end. Because at the end, women are still kidnapped regardless if they're vulnerable or not, or they're easily targets of men simply because of the perception that they're not vulnerable. But the third idea is about security. So women or non-male, they come into things because they feel insecure. What do I mean by this? For example, women who are less likely to enter STEM subjects or male-dominated subjects, or they are less likely to go vacations like with their women friends because they're scared of being raped. So in general, women are always locked out of very good opportunities in life that they can actually access if they are not scared or if actually they feel secure. This means we believe that want to do something but they're scared to do so. We believe that we give them more confidence for women to actually reach their dreams or to do anything that they want in life without having to be scared that someone else might rape you or someone else might take you in that sense. Because we believe that now people can't just say that you're a girl, you can't protect yourself, because now you see I have a gun and I can actually protect myself in that sense. Sure.
Right, so presumably the societies you're talking about fairly progressive, they're going to recognize non-male individuals. You outline it to us, for example, what exactly you think the protections for these individuals in this society are really like?
So like the reason why you think that having a gun is simply detrimental is because even if you say that some people already receive some form of protection, this protection is not enough. Because first, I've already told you how the perception people have on these individuals is that they're less vulnerable. This means they're still going to open for attacks despite them having some form of protection from the government. But also second, like some people they just don't care. This means however they don't care about whatever like the progress that your society currently have. So even if people try to preach about how you should be nice to transgender individuals or how you should be nice to women because they're as equal as you, some people don't get it, or some people just don't like to get into this discussion to begin with because they feel that it is unnecessary for them. At least now when they know that these type of individuals that they once ignore or they once think less important now have guns, they actually have a reason to consider these individuals and also be more careful in their action against these people. But second, how is it beneficial? We feel that the discrimination that like women or like non-male face previously is what makes them seem more vulnerable. So this means that because women are oftentimes discriminated, this means in the workplace or anywhere you go, people can't call you simply because you're a woman and you're not a male. These are the circumstances that oftentimes makes women feel insecure whenever they want to go out or whenever they want to like do anything that makes them feel happy. We feel that we shouldn't make a world in where women feel that they cannot receive certain things or they cannot feel happy just because of this social structures that prevent them from achieving what they want at the end. This means in a world where women, in your world, women are still unable to get what they want or unable to proceed in life in achieving what they actually want, simply because they feel that they are not safe enough, or second, because they feel that people would not trust them. By having a gun, this also symbolizes that the idea of people trusting them at the end, because when you have a gun, it also shows that you have more power over other individuals. This means people that previously don't trust you by saying that you are weaker than other people might consider their thoughts because they know that you now have a gun that other people don't have. Imagine a world where a woman owns a gun and walks everywhere, and you have a group of friends that walk together with you. People are less likely to catcall you, or people are less likely to see you as a vulnerable target for crimes. What does this mean, and what does this translate to? This means the world is more likely to restructure around itself, in which men are now more likely to consider their actions that they have committed towards women. So now people who once don't care about the legislations that women want, or like legislation of like transgender individuals want, who are now likely to consider if they own a gun, they must own a gun for some reasons. This means your people that are once ignorant now would find a reason why they want to search up on these individuals, like what the discrimination that women face in the past that make them able to get guns now. This means your ignorant people in the past are more likely to have a reason to actually do some research on this issue. The day where the world is a safe world for non-male is a world where equality for both sexes actually exists, and we're happy to live in this world.
Okay, I'd like to thank the Prime Minister for those remarks and invite the leader of opposition.
No. My government assumes that by women bearing arms and them uniquely having arms, suddenly a lot of their problems will suddenly go away. Men change their perception on women, and suddenly everyone wants to have legal changes towards in favor of women. We don't think that's going to happen, and they are yet to prove what is the link that's going to create all these changes. Firstly, a clarification of what it means to bear arms, right? We think that's ability for you to have ammunition on you, it's ability for you to hold guns. And oftentimes it's conflated to you having the ability to protect because you uniquely have ammunition to execute these sort of protections that you need. For example, in a case where like you're held hostage, or in the case where you require arms to protect yourself, this is usually where people get it, and therefore like just a clarification of what it means to bear arms. Rebuttals will be integrated. Firstly, the question is, what entails you the right to bear arms? Under their side, it argues that women need to bear arms because they are necessarily vulnerable. This means that they uniquely like dismiss the amount of men that also go through the need of you wanting to protect yourself, because we don't think the position of being in danger is uniquely towards women. So when is the right to bear arms granted? Number one, because you want to have a sense of safety. This also means that the right to bear arms is given when you want to have the ability to protect yourself or to protect other people around you. This means that in order for you to have the ability or this right, it means that you have the potential of putting yourself in danger or being in danger, period. We don't think this is unique towards gender, right? Note that the circumstances of like bearing arms is unique towards having the ability to self-protect. We think that danger in of itself is not unique towards gender. This means that it's not exclusive toward women. Oftentimes, men also go through circumstances in which they can be gang raped. Men also go through like circumstances in which they are held hostage. These things are not unique to women. Even if they want to argue that this is proportionally higher towards women, we think that the point in which you dismiss the men that go through this, you necessarily inflict the harms that happen, because we don't think it's fair for you to dismiss the unique circumstances, right? Sure. No, we give the right to bear arms to everyone, not uniquely to women. Yeah. So so what happens now under your side when you allow only women, or you allow only the idea to be able to self-protect to women? Oftentimes this like necessarily excludes the men that are put in a position of danger within this certain household, because the principle of you having the right to bear arms is not contingent on your gender, but it's contingent on whether or not you have the ability to go into danger. And we don't think it's exclusive to women only, even if it's disproportionately women. We think that at the end of the day, like men also are like sometimes victims of patriarchy in the sense of their existence of toxic masculinity. We think that in the idea of wanting to like destroy patriarchy, we don't think it's a fight exclusive to non-male genders, right? But secondly, let's talk about what happens if only non-males have the right to bear arms. Number one, the duty of protect falls on them. So what does this mean? Because they are uniquely the community, or the uniquely the community that has access to ammunition. We think what happens is, number one, it pushes for them to step up and for them to necessarily be the ones to be the protectors. And now note that under our side, it's exclusive to women, and we cannot put this responsibility on anyone else because this right is exclusive to women. So the point in which you do this is that oftentimes, number one, not only you push them to step up, but secondly, you force them to be accountable for any like dangers that happen, because they weren't there when like they needed arms to protect themselves. And necessarily this plays on them in the sense that if they have an inability to protect you or use this necessarily, it puts the burden on you. That means you are forced to step up. This also means that this burden of protection necessarily means that women have, even in reluctance, women have to step up, because now this new responsibility that they have to hold, being the sole community that have the right to bear arms. But secondly, right, in a world in which oftentimes this misogynistic views still exist, in which they already have this negative preconceived notions towards non-male, oftentimes what's going to happen is that if you were to hold a gun, if you were the only community that can hold a gun, oftentimes these rhetorics are inflated. Why? Because when you have the ability to hold a gun, they will oftentimes use the rhetoric that they are too emotional to use a gun, or they will misuse the gun, or now they are necessarily in higher danger because women hold gun is now going to be it's going to be inflated because they will put you as the antagonist, because they're already a preconceived narrative or a preconceived notion that they're anti non-males, right? So we think that it's not necessarily going to change the idea of patriarchy, but instead it will give more reason for the patriarchy to have a reason to go against you and put you as the antagonist, seeming that you are the only group of people that have the ability to hold them, right? We don't think this perception changed, instead it worsens under your side. So lastly, right, what happens when the only women are able, or only non-male have the right to bear arms? Number one, I think it's important to note that the point in which you put gender as a metric to right to bear arms, it means that anything that has to do with like using guns means that it's often going to be associated with their genders. This also means that you have an ability, because this association is directly towards gender, it also means that number one, they have a higher attention and to like micro-analyze every mistake that you do. This means that the point in which someone messes up, oftentimes they will now have an argument against against you and is able to villainize you because it's directly associated to gender. This looks like, number one, they have this looks like arguments such as saying, oh, now non-males have the incapability to like hold guns. For example, you are not disciplined enough, or you are too emotional to hold guns. One mistake can also put you in a position in which the whole community is seen as incapable, and therefore, like because people tend to micro-analyze everything that each person does and whether or not your capabilities are cool. In comparison on the outside, when everyone has the ability to bear arms, people don't necessarily conflate it to people don't necessarily compare the right to bear arms to gender. Therefore, they can't use it against you, even if a woman messes up, even if a woman holds a gun and messes up, they won't necessarily associate it to gender in and of itself, because at the end of the day, the right to bear arms is like a general right to begin with, right? So now, we think the point in which you want to if their outcome is at the end of the day, they want to change the rhetorics and want to change the patriarchy, we don't think it's useful for you to necessarily associate the right to bear arms directly to gender, because at the end of the day, number one, it's unjustified, but secondly, we think that this rhetoric is necessarily amplified. The point in which you only allow women, it's easier for men to find argument against you. We think the point in which you want to destroy patriarchy, you must involve men and women, male and non-males. At the end of the day, we don't think it's a fight that you only take on your gender. Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to thank the leader of opposition, like the Deputy Prime Minister. Here.
In this world, everything is associated to gender. When you drive cars, there's always statistics about how many women are driving cars and how many males are driving cars. There's always a statistic that shows how many people are involved in accidents, how many females are involved in accidents, how many males are involved in accidents, right? So it's very convenient for side opposition to come and tell us that that we cannot associate, even if we give everyone the right to bear arms, it will not be associated to gender. Because at the end of the day, like it or not, it will. Statistics will show you how much men will actually misuse guns compared to women. I mean, obviously, all the gun cases, the misuse of gun cases we see are done by men anyway. So this shows that if you actually allow men to use guns, it'll be more detrimental to society compared to women, right? So now, what the speaker before me actually said. So the first thing she said that men are also vulnerable. Yeah, I know men are also vulnerable, but in today's world, women are more vulnerable. Okay, it's so obvious. Statistics also show that how many women are getting raped compared to men. So that is why that we allow non-males to actually get the right to actually bear arms, because they are more vulnerable in society, and that is why they deserve the right to actually bear these arms, right? Also, their model about how you only get the right to bear arms only if you're seen in a position where you are more potentially to be in danger. Like, there's no metric to actually see who can be in danger at any point in time, right? Because of course, and that is why the non-males often have safe spaces in trains or in public places, because they are so vulnerable. Like they're always being attacked. Every time you see a girl wearing a short skirt, it screams rape, and that is why people like them need the right to actually bear arms. So this also means that on side opposition, women will forever, non-males will forever be vulnerable, because now you grant the right for everyone to actually bear arms, right? This means that a man can easily shoot a non-male, thinking that, and just accuse the non-male for actually putting them in danger, and reverse the entire idea of how the non-male actually wanted to rape the man, which is which is more likely to be false in your world, right? So also they had the argument about how women have to actually step up when they have now non-males have to step up when they have guns, because now there's an assumption that since now non-males have the right to have guns, that means now they're in a better position to protect themselves. Yes, this is great. This is amazing, because now that means gives women chances to non-males actually step up, and that's what we want. We want non-males to actually step up, and that is why Tasha has already said in the speech. We want them to actually engage in better careers that actually so male dominant, right? Like how she spoke about the STEM projects and all that. So this is actually this will actually be an incentive for non-male to actually feel more confident about themselves, to actually make an effort to actually engage in more programs and activities that are so apparently patriarchal. So this means that in workplaces, now they feel more safe, and they'll feel safer. There'll be less bullying about their gender. There'll be less discrimination, and that is what we want on our side, right? Also, we do not have to worry about on how these guns can be misused, because Tasha already mentioned that they will have a track record of who owns which gun. That means if there's any signs of abuse, we will actually check on that to make sure that there won't be any misuse, right? So before I move on, any POIs?
So non-males also have the right to bear arms under our side. They can also protect themselves. How do you help the male that are also in danger in status quo?
Okay, so yeah, in your world, everybody, if everybody can get to own a gun, right? Okay, but the thing is, then is your world, the vulnerability of women will still be there, will be still stagnant, but our side will decrease substantially, because now we're only granting the right for non-males to actually own the gun. But in your world, that means a male and a non-male can actually use the gun against each other, which is worse. But on our side, on side, we only grant the right to only non-males, so that they will feel more protected. They will feel more security, which Tasha spoke about in her speech, right? Because we must understand that what non-males lack in this world today is security. Because everywhere they go, they feel disturbed, they feel uncomfortable because of how society has actually oppressed and discriminated them, right? That means a non-cis male is having trouble to actually open up because of all the discrimination that she has faced, right? So this is why that only with the right of actually bearing arms, it gives them power to actually feel more confident about what they are, and about how they feel about everything, right? That means it'd be easier for them to actually feel more confident in society, because we all know we all know that a weapon can be a source of power, right? That means it's pretty much telling the world that do not mess with me, and that is what we want for the non-males, right? Because we must understand that that by granting only non-males the right to bear arms, that means they'll feel more protected, and that is they'll feel more protected, and that is what we need. So that means in our world, the cases of rape, the cases of bullying, of discrimination will actually significantly be reduced, because now all the patriarchal male in your world will actually now will be pressured and be forced to actually to not say anything against non-males, right? Now you'll be forced to think about the fact that, you know what, at the end of the day, we are all human beings, we all deserve equal rights, and that is what we all want at the end of the day. So if you believe that everybody is equal and we deserve human rights, then go with side opening government. Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to thank the Deputy Prime Minister and invite the Deputy Leader of Opposition to speak. Here.
Yeah.
Opposition tells us that men will antagonize women at the point at which you apply the right of arm only to non-male. But if you realize that all of their case is dependent on every woman, every non-male opting into getting a weapon to get the kind of antagonize that they get. But realize that this is an opt-in debate. So we'll give you the choice whether or not you want to bear arms or whether or not you want to. Because we argue to you that only a small minority will opt in. But the small minorities are the ones that we need to protect because they're the ones that are most vulnerable, they're the ones that are most susceptible to stereotypes, they're the ones that are most likely to be in abusive relationships, or they're the most likely to be abused by men. So firstly, my extension I'll go directly into my extension. My rebuttals will be integrated within my speech. I promise I'll flag them out. So firstly, the principle of self-defense. Why do we grant individuals the right to bear arms? Because OG went and told you that it's to protect yourself. But we'll go further and tell you why this principle of self-defense is exclusively for non-males directly clashing with OO. Because firstly, we must recognize that the failure of state to protect these individuals, when it comes to crime against non-males, most number of circumstances, it's things like being sexually harassed. It's things like domestic abuse. So these are things like that puts you in imminent danger, right? So they might say that, oh, there are police, there's law enforcement, or there's people around you that can help you to protect you. But we argue to you that those kinds of police and law enforcement is reactionary. So at the point at which you're in danger of that crime, in danger of being abused, in danger of being sexually harassed, the police are not there yet. So we need to allow these individuals to have their agency to protect themselves at the point at which they're being attacked. The reason why non-males are more susceptible to this kind of crime is for two reasons. The first is stereotypes, misogyny and trans-misogyny. The fact that in status quo, people have so much against women and non-males. The fact that anything that is associated to women is seen as terrible, but also it's hyper-masculinity, right? The things that men are hyper-masculine, and any traits of women is seen as a weakness, but being violent is seen as a strength. Those two things means that the more reasons why non-males are more susceptible to these kinds of crimes. So we think they need to self-defend themselves more. So why not extend it to men? Because the biggest case that came from them is they want to extend it to everyone and they want to give it to everyone. But we tell you firstly that in status quo that the structures of government already systematically advantages men for four reasons. The first is that men are less likely to be hurt because of stereotype that men are because people perceive men as strong and and women as weak. Therefore, people are more likely to choose their victims as women because they know that they're more likely to win when they're attacking those women. But two, I wish this wasn't true, but men are biologically stronger because of their physique. That means if they hit me, they probably can punch me and I'll get hurt. And three, God. Men already have advantage in court. It's things like men have political capital, things like being able to hire a good lawyer for you to get the retribution that you want after that crime. But four, men, there are only three. So you see that men have advantages in status quo that women don't. That's why men don't need the kind of arms that women or non-male individuals need. No, thank you. So, firstly, second extension. I'll analyze to you, I'll provide to you
why exactly we are able to change the behaviors of men under outside of the house. Because opening government merely told you that they will, but it didn't never show you how. But firstly, I'll tell you, we'll analyze the psyche of men in status quo and why is it that they're more likely to be violent towards non-male. Firstly, we argue to you that men have internalized masculinity, that hyper-masculinity. That means they believe that violence is a sign of strength, and any form of female attributes or anything associated to females are seen as weak, so that young boys are indoctrinated by this overarching narrative that men will always be stronger than women and women are weaker than men. So you see, when you allow women the right to bear arms and you have women holding in weapons and showing to men that I can kill you if I want to, that kind of image is visceral towards men, and it instills the kind of fear in men that they are not as strong as they want to be. So it counter-narrates the kind of hyper-masculinity that already exists in status quo. It defeats the stereotype that men are stronger than women, and it shows that women can have the agency to protect themselves if they want to. Before that, sure.
Why is it that the show of strength against all of these men and masculinity that you talk about have to come in the form of guns?
We told you that the reason why is because of the overarching narrative that men are stronger than women. It's internalized from birth that women are less stronger than men. And it's hard for you to break this conception in men's mindset when you don't have a visceral image of women holding in weapons and showing to men that they can be stronger than men. But we tell you, at the point at which you break this, you balance out the narrative, you are able to change the behavior towards men. How does this manifest in real life? It's things like, for example, in a domestic abuse relationship, for example, when a woman is able to hold a weapon and when that man is trying to attack her, she's able to protect herself. But it's not just being able to shoot the guy, right? It's being able to hold that weapon and showing that man that I am just as strong as you and I can hurt you if you hurt me. So that kind of thing breaks the conceptualization that that violence is that men can hurt women and women aren't able to protect themselves. We give women agency to protect themselves and allow them to break the narrative that women are weak.
Okay, I'd like to thank the member of government and invite the member of opposition.
Woo!
And at the end of today's discussion, we need to ask ourselves some questions. Why is it that even if we agree with all of the problems that government outlines with regards to the world, of the way that the world is today, what is the solution to things like catcalling is the prospect of having a bullet through your head? To that end, we would argue that this debate isn't actually one about these specific problems and wanting to solve the issue, but rather why we think the only way of solving the inequalities that exist in society is through the use of the same violence that has tormented and made women fear each other for so long against men as a means of actually constricting choices even further. And that's what our extension will be about. But before I move on to that, I just wanted to point out one thing. Because on their side, they told us, well, you see, now there's inequality. So if everyone has guns, inequality continues. That's not the way guns work. Guns are a force equalizer. It doesn't matter how physically strong you are because you're not going to be able to move faster than the bullet. Which is to say that on their side, if everyone had guns, women would be equally capable of protecting themselves compared to men. The only justification for this particular policy on their side is through the use of over-excessive force and violence to make men fear these women. Everything that is precisely the problem that they didn't want to tackle. I'm going to give you
two big extensions of this debate. Firstly, I'm going to give you a principal reason as to why we think this is incredibly problematic. Secondly, I'm going to tell you about how this reinforces the culture of fear and why this backtracks progress in the feminist movement. The first question, or the first thing that we want to talk about, is that, I think OG told you that like everyone has the right to bear arms because this is how we protect ourselves, and as long as we get subject to danger with the right to bear arms. I'm going to explain to you why this is harmful. The first layer of analysis that we're going to give you is this. Because the state is the one who is now systematically and categorically denying an entire group of people the right to their self-defense, they become complicit in the harms that are attendant upon these individuals. And more so than that, complicit in the harms of the use of violence from non-male individuals towards male individuals, because the nature of giving or arming only a specific group of individuals is that you are incapable of actually being able to control the violence that these people visit upon male individuals. So the state becomes complicit in those harms. It's also a moral hazard because the state is now offloading its responsibility of solving problems of violence towards these individuals themselves, and then later making them perhaps criminally liable for the acts that they have committed. Our alternative was simple: more policemen, better enforcement. The only response we got from this was the idea that, but policemen are reactionary. That is untrue, right? Have you been to Talawi on like a Friday night and seen the number of police officers that are around there? No, thank you. There's clearly ways in which police officers, for example, can preemptively scout out areas and try and protect these individuals. To the extent to which it's not a perfect system, the other side is not perfect either, because not every woman, every non-male is going to arm themselves, and not every non-male is going to be able to win in the interaction against these people. It's not a principal reason as to why this policy is just. But secondly, we think that it's problematic because it creates a culture of fear in the society. So firstly, deterrence in the hands of common citizens is principally problematic because the effect that you want literally requires a high use of that violence, or at least the imminent threat that violence will be used against you. And that's how you get a deterrent that leads to all the good effects that they were talking about. This means that by its very nature, the government acknowledges that it cannot control the use of this violence against individuals. And we think that's problematic. And specifically for non-male individuals, because one of the biggest problems that non-male individuals have faced in the last decade is the fact that there is a culture of fear of violence that makes them feel incredibly alienated within the society itself. We think it's immensely hypocritical that now they're going to use that particular culture of violence and turn it against the men that oppress them, and in doing so, simply change the oppression rather than actually find a way to create equality within the society in the way they've talked about. We think movements need to be justified in the way that they go about creating equality and finding like some sort of justice for themselves, because if not, they have no moral legitimacy and are no better than the oppressors that came before that. So they needed to explain to us why suddenly non-male individuals were of such primacy that they should be able to turn oppression back against other people. We think oppression in general is just bad. But secondly, how does this detract from the ability to actually solve the problem? The first thing that we need to note is that what this particular policy does and what the specific use of guns do is that it reinforces the idea that currently exists that violence is the answer to all of the problems. Right now, people generally believe that might is right. And this has spillover effects to many things that they were talking about as well. Like, for example, workplace discrimination, where individuals believe that a heavy-handed fist, which is associated with ideas of hyper-masculinity and violence, is the way in which the most efficient outcomes can be accrued. To that end, we would argue that what they are doing is simply reinforcing the idea that violence is the correct way in which we ought to be able to create that hierarchy of who is in power in a particular society. This is a couple of harms. Firstly, we think that the problem here is that large numbers of individuals, both women, non-male individuals, as well as men, find the idea of that toxic masculinity incredibly oppressive to them. They don't want it. They feel as if they have to live up to a particular ideal that they don't agree with because they don't actually want to be violent. But to the extent to which you are telling them that violence is the only way in which you can get your way in society by making other people fear you, there's no escape from that specific narrative, and that detracts from the ability of individuals to make choices. We think that's incredibly problematic. But secondly, we want to argue that the problem here is that you whitewash any possible nuanced discussions that non-male individuals can have with regards to other forms of discrimination that they could potentially face. So, for example, when it comes to things like sexual assault, affirmative consent, and other nuanced discussions, we need to recognize that it is not just about your freedom from being catcalled or your freedom from outright sexual assault, but much more nuanced discussion that we think this policy is allowed. But yeah.
So because of fear, don't now men realize how much fear they put women into all this time?
Yeah, but you're assuming that people react rationally to fear, right? You're thinking that like, oh, man, that is so hard. Like, being a male with like my muscles and stuff has made women feel really bad. I guess I shouldn't, be physically stronger. Like, what are they going to do about it, right? They're going to look at the gun. they're going to react irrationally because they feel as if there's an oppression against them. We think there's a much likelier response in this case. So what happens now? We think the problem is that because carrying a gun and the fear of death or the fear of that bullet, which is what they are proposing, is a very visceral reminder to these individuals at all points of time of their idea of violence. It makes it seem as if any other discussion about more nuanced issues is something that doesn't actually go to the heart of the problem. Because at the end of the day, the answer to all of the questions is just, but they have a gun. They can actually kill you. And there's no reason why, for example, we are going to talk about the more nuanced or supposedly soft questions that women have to face. Like, for example, like being slut-shamed, all of which are things that men are just going to be like, okay, but then should that? They have so much more power than us right now. We think that detracts away from it. In a world in which, for example, lone shooters who are men are already getting a lot of flack for it. In a world in which we're already hating toxic masculinity because we believe that that is the reason why so many children have died and so much injustices have occurred. We are already on a correct, progressive path towards changing this particular narrative and allowing for more diverse interpretations of what it means to be good or what it means to be a person and creating more freedom for identity. This policy detracts from that. We're very happy to oppose.
Okay, I'd like to thank the member of opposition and invite the government to close out government sentence. Thank you.
The reason why opposition bench lose this debate is because they assume that all women will suddenly shoot at the point where they already have guns, but secondly, fail to analyze the psyche of women as to why the psyche of women is never like disregarding the psyche of women, because we said it takes a lot of courage for you to even shoot that someone. Secondly, they also assume that everything will be good, in which Iman gave a structural reason as to why status quo actually benefits men. But thirdly, the reason why they also lose this debate is because they assume that all women will opt into wanting to bear arms. We told you that the minority of individuals are the one, women who are the most vulnerable, who will be the one who take up this arm. Because in a progressive context or in a progressive household, they are the ones who probably their rights are safeguarded or being held safe by their husbands or people around them. Therefore, we are talking about the context of individuals who really need the guns most, in which they fail to engage with the characterization coming from Iman. What did we talk about? We talked about the psyche of men, for instance, in which we didn't get any responses at all from Charmaine, which all of their extension was basically a reiteration, a better wording of what opposition have fought in this debate. So firstly, we analyzed the psyche of men, stating that at the point that when we were young, we're already, men are already internalized to believe that they're stronger than women. And you can see these things, for instance, in schools, or even parents perpetuate this idea that boys can go around the park and play, but females can't. This also extends to things like even in college, that frat boys, for instance, in parties have that form of toxic masculinity and fighting with each other to see whose strength is the best. And all of those sort of things became the reason as to why these individuals are usually misogynist or even sexist. This is the narrative that all of these patriarchal men or misogynist and sexist men usually hold. So these are the kind of individuals who usually have this abusive household, who usually have this problematic household. We are the ones who break this narrative from these individuals who have this kind of perception or conceptualization in which we now tell them that women are also capable to fight you, for instance, to instill this fear towards this men. Because in a progressive context, we we disagree with Shirme when she said, oh guys, there's like hyper masculinity now, like Banyo, or also said like men will antagonize women. In a progressive context, or even in a household that already understands that these things are wrong, they wouldn't do that. But now we challenge the men who are probably much more sexist and misogynist to reevaluate, reassess, and also defend their beliefs, and also tell that to other people as to why those things are correct. This extends to for instance, going to court and make that sort of a rationalization. That's where we break that narrative that when unengaged with all of the opposition bench. Second thing that I want to talk about in this debate. Who should bear arms? Is it not individuals or everyone like opposition really want to talk about? Because they said, hey guys, everyone goes through hardship. I already told you, like in status quo, and Iman have already posited this, in which we received no engagement from Xiaomei, which we said that in status quo, like all of these structures in government have already been favoring men. For instance, like even male itself in a household have more resources, no thank you. But secondly, we also posit you that there's physically stronger. Or thirdly, have more allies, for instance, in police forces, like political capital to talk to politicians and all those sort of things, are more likely to escape danger, for instance, in court, for instance. We said that all of these things are privilege that men can only acquire in which women can't. When we go to court, people usually say, oh, maybe these women are crazy or they're emotional and all those sort of things. But at least under our side of the house, even in the most extreme cases that this woman shot their husband because he's abusive, at least she's released from the shackles of abuse that she's been into for such a long time. We see that non-males are usually subject to a lot of harms that males don't. For instance, transphobic queer individuals are subjected to transphobic behavior by other people, or women are always deemed as weaker by cis male. Like non-binaries are probably weird because we are unable to relate to them. All of these struggles are not shared by male, and they're the ones who also have a lot of advantage in society. We said we then break this deadlock when it comes to the gravity of harm, in which now like women are the ones who should bear arms. But thirdly, also directly engaging with closing opposition and opening opposition, why this antagonization and this hyper masculinity won't be heightened like under our side of the house? Because Iman have already to you. We live in a globalized world already in which people are more aware of women's rights, people are more aware of laws and all those sort of things. Therefore, the ones who are not aware of this are small minority. Because of this advocacy already exists in status quo, it is under our side of the house we heighten the intensity of this effort into to break the conception of these women, for instance. Because we see that at least under our side of the house, those things can be internalized by these men who feel that they are always stronger than women. What does this then do? We say that, ladies and gentlemen, men are more likely to reassess that situation. For instance, we will make intrusion of that issue. For instance, if you're in court, people are more likely to ask about what is happening in that household. This kind of discussion makes people more aware what are the struggles that women are going through, that they're being silenced of all this while. We make better policies at the point where now people can empathize and understand why those women, probably in the extreme circumstances, shoot that man, or even if she takes out that gun, would understand what is the rationality behind that. We said that at least now patriarchal men are more understanding of what those women are going through. Lastly, how will we then change the treatment of men, for instance? Because we said in status quo that most of these men who abuse women are usually sexist and misogynist. We said under our side of the house, abusive husbands are more likely to change their behavior, and we were the ones who provide this link, because these psyche of men, these counter narrative are more likely to change the behavior, of themselves, at the point where now they're scared of their wives, for instance, or scared of their daughters, for instance. Especially recently, we can see the heighten of cases, especially in Malaysia, where they're like dads are raping their daughters, or even like in a lot of circumstances like marital rape, for instance. These things left unreported because people are just scared of the male figure in their household. We said it's under our side of the house where we give them the agency and also like have them give them the ownership to take over their life and the course of their life. Go inside, closing our position. Closing our position.
Okay, I'd like to thank Governor Lip and invite the Off-Lip to close out the debate. Here.
Three key issues in today's debate. Number one is, will this reduce the kind of violence from the men's individual side? And will this empower your non-male individuals? And third, which side actually forwards the idea of equality, which is just coming from like your movements such as your feminist movements per se, right? But before going on to key rebuttals, let's just look at what Shirley told you today. Number one, she told you how it is very important for you to have a moral legitimacy when it comes to your movement per se. When you use things such as violence, we think that it's very easy for people to see you as much more less moral actor at the end of the day, especially when this can also lead to you doing things such as your vigilante justice, an example, and can be utilized and capitalized by your already sexist media per se, or your already sexist justice system. And we think that this already hampers you and your ability for you to forward your message, in which says that men and your like all genders in general are just equal, right? We think that this is harmful because people will utilize it, like will not hear that message at the end of the day. And second is that violence is apparently now the only way for you to get things, right? We think this is harmful and also quite hypocritical, because I think that usually like your feminist movements will usually go against this sort of thing, right? And we think that this is quite hypocritical for us to not subject ourselves to this kind of way. And that third, I think this is the most important one, is that it actually swerves from actual discourse. Like, why do your men treat your women like this? Why do your men treat your trans women like this, right? That we think that by actually looking more rational as a movement, we can have this sort of discussions. Because I think that government thinks that just because fear now exists, that you fear your non-male individuals, suddenly all your men will treat you really well. We think that there's a huge, large missing link, like to ask how will they now change their perspective towards women and how their behavior will now change, right? We think that they think fear will solve every problem, but the thing is, fear will only further the gap between your genders, that there will be less understanding and less possibility for you to actually sit down and have the kind of discourse that you can have in order for you to raise your males, in order for them to become much more compassionate towards your woman. But in fact now, you just raising your men in a way that they will only feel women and feel no sort of other emotions towards your other women per se. Now let's deal with side CG. CG told you things such as self-defense, because your justice system is reactionary, danger is imminent, your government is sexist, so all of this just advantages like all your men, right? That's why you need your guns. Okay, but how does this actually solve anything? Because when your government, your judges are still sexist, your policemen are still transphobic, that now because you're in danger, you kill your men, wouldn't this now be used against you per se? Because their perspective towards you still haven't changed. That your media will now showcase you such as a lunatic. Your judges will now decide that you committed murder in cold blood. Under your side, you're one abused lady who kills her abuser, but now her act will now be capitalized on men in order for her to take away that ability and rationale in order for her to defend herself. And not only this harms her, but also now jeopardizes the safety of your other non-male individuals per se. Because now this whole narrative is being placed upon your every other non-male individuals at the end of the day. And they also tell us things like men think that violence is a sign of strength, so that's why we need to utilize this, guys. Look, we think that this is highly hypocritical, because now we now like flip the switch, right? Because now we were once raised as women to think that like we should fear men, and now that we flip the switch, now men should now fear women. We think that this doesn't solve anything, right? Because number one, this isn't even healthy, right? Because we're still extending the harms of bigotry towards men per se, and we think that this harms their own growth per se, and how they treat women, and how they treat their mothers and their sisters. We think that this isn't healthy. And at the end of the day, your ideal equality isn't exactly equal when there's still a large fear coming from their particular side. And also our extension as to like how violence isn't the way to go, and how violence is also a thing that causes people to act irrational, means that there's a likelihood for them to become even more violent, because now they see that the narrative is like, oh, violence is the only way to go, that respect only goes both ways, and respect, I can only respect a person per se when there is genuine fear on my side. Let's deal with OG. OG says that this is the only way for you to keep your your non-male individuals safe, because again, to make them fear you, right? Because now apparently no one will cut for you because you carry a gun. No, because making them fear you doesn't change the perspective and beliefs that influences how they treat you, right? Because now, like because they already tell you things such as like, oh, they use scientific facts, religious scriptures to back their arguments as to why your non-male individuals are less superior than you. So we don't understand how suddenly this fear will like eradicate all of those things. And government never told us how this fear will now translate progressive things such as respect or compassion. In fact, we say that fear is the worst part of emotion, the kind of emotion that men can have, right? Why? Because fear makes you irrational, especially when your disposition or perspective towards non-male individuals doesn't change. They still hate you guys, they still hate your trans people, right? This means that the likelihood of them being much more irrational, being increasingly violent towards you, will now be increased, especially when they perceive you as already to have the capability for you to be violent, that you already have a gun. This trans woman probably has a gun. It means that if they decided to engage in violence, it will be an increased form of violence in order for you to counter, in order for them to counter the fact that you already have a gun. Before that, yes, Shura.
Yeah. Please be the first opposition to tell us, like, how do you prevent a dad raping their children because they believe that their daughters will never fund them back, and that these daughters are dependent on him?
I think that, like Shrimay said, like just generally, like your particular justice system is a thing that you can go to, especially when under your side now, your justice system capitalizes the fact that she is a woman, the fact that she's the only one that has a gun, in order for them to counter the fact that your men are probably now like disempowered, right? But we think that your ability for you to have this kind of discourse as to why exactly does the dad think that your particular daughter is less inferior than his particular son, who's now unable for this discussion to happen at the end of the day. And we think that this is much more harmful, right? The likelihood of him actually changing his perspective is much more less likely under your side. Because under your side, there will be an increased level of violence from your sexist, transphobic, homophobic men who hate your very being, especially when they see that you are now empowered and their ability to perceive that they are now disempowered. And we think that this creates like their heightened irrationality at the end. Under our side, this level of violence can be better controlled when gun rights are like just probably to be set as equal. We think that violence shouldn't be the kind of thing that your movement should be propagating at the end of the day, right? And this whole idea of giving your non-male guns that your non-male guns and necessarily all bullying and discrimination disappears, I don't see how this also happens, right? Because like just because your co-worker ignores your idea, you shoot him, this doesn't make everybody suddenly now listen to you at the end of the day. And can benefit your movement. We don't think so, right? Because your movement will now seem like because OG says it's good, it makes your individual's ability for you to step up. But if all your tribes will now barely have guns and are now using them actively in order for them to propagate your message, we think it's much more likely for your men to think that they are irrational and that they have all these mental illnesses, things that they already associate your trans people to have, right? And we think this harms your existence or your further harms the existence of this particular trans people. And at the end of the day, you don't get to change anything. You just flip this coin. And we think that and at the end of the day, both sides are just still ugly, and we want a better world in which equality actually exists. Never be proud to oppose.
Okay, I'd like to thank you all for the debate. I'd like you to step outside, shake hands, and